want to do is, it's a lot like a rose. When you're doing a rose tree, or a rose plant, what you're trying to do is encourage new growth. We're trying to encourage the growth to go to the outside so we get lots of air, lots of light, and less disease. And fruit trees are actually absolutely no different. So if this is your fruit tree here, can everybody still see it appropriately? Too short to print it up high. What you want to, the first thing we're going to do when you get any fruit tree or you have any in your yard is to cut off all this side branching that we have here. Because what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to start with three. We're going to want to start with 3 or 4 structurally sound branches that we're going to work with. What we're seeing here is, you see how far the growth comes out on the tips? If I prune this plant here, still encouraging the growth to come to the end and go out where there's light, cutting off the growth so that it'll be stronger what's inside and reducing the amount of buds. The issue I'm having is this branch is still not very strong yet. So when you get plums on these or apples on these, you always see these in people's yard where the apples are there and the branches are hanging down the ground and they put sticks under them, or they tie them together so they won't fall over. It's generally a tree that has never been pruned properly. When you buy a fruit tree, you're really sacrificing fruit for the first 3 or 4 years if you really want to do it right. Because if you don't do that and you let the fruit come out on the ends of the plant, you're really hurting the plant in the end. So this is a plum. What we're doing with this guy here is we've got 3 main branches. We want to make sure they're structurally strong. So again, like a rose, we're going to prune them back, and this is where it's good to look for that out-facing bud, and this is where we generally put on a bit of an angled cut. Is on this plant here, we're probably going to cut it back about like that, about appropriate. We're cutting off between 1/2 and 2/3 of the growth that this plant has put on. And we'll probably look for an out-facing bud right here, like that. Cut these guys off here, so that the new growth that comes out is going to be sturdy. And that's what we're going to start with the 1-year plant. That's what it should really look like. You generally, what I would do with most fruit trees is plant them 1 year, let them root in, don't do anything. 2nd year, you've got this big root system, then prune them hard because the new growth you get will really push out and be strong. So conversely now, next year, you're going to get a lot of growth come everywhere. But you're going to get branch come out here, you're going to get these branches come out like this, maybe a couple on the side. Those are the branches that we're going to cut back again by 50, 60, up to 70%. The idea is that in 2 or 3 years, these branches are big and thick, this trunk's big and thick, and your fruit's going to start forming now down inside here. And it's going to keep forming as it goes out. But these guys are solid enough to hold up all the fruit that your plant's going to produce. So can you see the concept? Now, quite honestly, if we prune everything back this hard, those are going to sell, and this one's going to sit there because this is not a very good deal. Well, this is what you want to do once you've got them in. So buy your plant them for a year, and then prune them hard. Again, don't wait until they're 15 feet tall because you can still downwork them. But then what happens is after 5 or 10 years or 15 years, this plant's got a huge root system. So when you cut it back and try to train it, it's going to send out shoots all over the place. It's going to look like a bush. It's going to look like a great big bush. It's going to have foliage and it's going to have branches everywhere. Meaning that during the growing season, when you're deadheading or when you're pruning back or heading back a large fruit tree, you're going to have to summer prune them as well. You're going to have to start taking off a lot of those, what we call them water sprouts. You're going to have to start taking them off from day one because you don't want all your foliage going back up into the center again. So starting when the plants are young, it's way easier to take care of them. It's a lot less work than trying to rejuvenate a plant that's overgrown. So that's, see the principle what we're running with. If we run with, this is a cherry, again, same difference involved here. We've got probably, we could probably, let's say go, I'm not going to cut this branch off because this one's for sale, that's the tag. But let's say we were going to run with 4 branches. I would take this tag off here, or this branch off here, run with these 3, which I can still do. These would be my 3 branches here. And again, I would prune the tree back, look at an out-facing bud, something like that. Like that. That. And I'll prune this one back. I'd actually take this branch off normally, but so again, what we're trying to do is encourage, with these 3 branches here, encourage growth to go out. You're just going to keep your fruit and your branches lower. So what we're trying to do with a fruit tree is having something that's going to grow 8, 10, 12, 14 feet wide, but only 8 or 9 or 10 feet tall. Gives you the whole center of the tree for the light to get in. You're not going to get disease. You can pick the fruit without getting on a step ladder to get your fruit off of. It's just a more functional way to grow your trees, and it's the appropriate way. A lot of plants nowadays are espaliers, and when we're looking at these guys, this is how they're trained. This one here is a multiple graft, which means that every one of these shoots is a different variety of tree. But you can take any tree and basically train them into an espalier. And how we would normally do that is where you would have a tree that's, for a tree when you're planting them 6 or 8 or 10 feet tall, let them grow up. The following spring, plant them. The following spring you will cut off every branch. So effectively what you'll have is a pole, just a stick. Then what you'll do is that when the new growth breaks out of the tree, you'll space them 1 foot, 2 feet, whatever you're comfortable with. Let those shoots come out and let them grow long. All the other shoots that come out of that tree the first year, keep them about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. Prune them when they're about that length and cut them off. The reason that we do that is we encourage some of the growth to go way out, and that's what we're going to train our tree to make our espalier with. But because we also need food for the tree, so it's going to continue to grow, we let all this little growth stay inside for at least 1 year. Because what that does, that green foliage, although it's not shooting out, it's not going to take away from the plant, it's going to produce food. It's also going to encourage the plant to want to pull nutrients up to the top. And for the first year, you'll do that. The second year, these will continue to grow out, but you will cut off all of the branches that are in this area. They're only going to be short anyway, but you'll cut them all off and then just let the tree grow out. For an espalier tree, this one's been done for 1 year. It's actually been trained fairly well. All you would really do the second year is cut it there and cut back some of this growth back by about 1/3. Again, what it does, you're just cutting the foliage, the branches back to encourage growth to the outside of the tree. But again, what we're doing is we're encouraging that this tip will be a good, strong push of growth that will come out. The nice part about espalier is you can train them each your fence. In case of peaches, nectarines, those kind of plants that don't like rain, you can train them underneath your eaves so they stay dry. But you'll keep all your foliage really close to the branches of the plants. And they generally, you're going to support them on wires or on wood. But the nice part about it is you get a lot of fruit off a lot smaller area. And you don't use up a lot of yard space either, which is nice as well. So instead of putting vines on your fence, you can put fruit trees and they'll do extremely well. Again, when you're doing this, try to keep them in the sunniest location that you can get. You can do that. Any questions?